The collision happened at 7:47 a.m., Gate B23, LAX Terminal 2. Emma Rodriguez felt the impact reverberate through her bones as her shoulder slammed into what felt like a marble statue wearing Armani. Her overstuffed messenger bag exploded open, sending her laptop, phone charger, and mortifyingly, a pack of emergency tampons sliding across the polished airport floor like confetti from hell. "Watch where you're going," came a voice that could have been carved from ice and expensive whiskey. Emma looked up from her hands and knees, ready to apologize, until she saw him, tall, devastatingly handsome in that infuriating way that suggested personal trainers and trust funds, with dark hair that defied the laws of airport humidity and eyes the color of a winter storm. He stood there in his perfect navy suit, looking down at her like she was gum on his Italian leather shoes. The apology died in her throat. "Excuse me?" Emma scrambled to her feet, her cheeks burning as she watched him pick up her tampons with 2 fingers, holding them like they might contaminate his manicure. "I was running because I'm late for my flight, not because I enjoy playing human pinball." "West Coast people," he said, the words dripping with disdain as he handed her the tampons. "Always 5 minutes behind and expecting the world to accommodate. Your relaxed timeline?" The blood rushed to Emma's face so fast she felt dizzy. She'd been up since 4 a.m., had fought through LA traffic that moved like molasses in January, and had sprinted through 3 terminals because her Uber driver decided to take a scenic route through downtown. And this trust fund baby had the audacity to lecture her about punctuality? "Listen here, you pretentious piece of work," Emma said, shoving her belongings back into her bag with enough force to break something. "I don't know who crowned you the airport etiquette police, but some of us actually work for a living instead of floating through life on Daddy's credit card." His eyebrows rose, and for a split second, something flickered across his face. Surprise? Amusement? Before Emma could analyze it, the intercom crackled to life. "Final boarding call for Flight 847 to New York, Gate B23. The gate will close in 2 minutes." Emma's stomach dropped. "Shit. Flight 847? The man's smile turned sharp as a blade. "How interesting. I'm on that flight too." "Briefcase. Perhaps we can continue this delightful conversation at 30,000 feet. I'd rather sit next to a screaming toddler," Emma muttered, shouldering her bag and speed-walking toward the gate. "At least screaming toddlers have an excuse for their behavior," he called after her. Emma whipped around, walking backwards now, her voice carrying across the terminal. "And what's your excuse? Mommy never taught you manners because the nanny was too busy raising you?" She turned and ran before he could respond, her heart hammering against her ribs. Behind her, she could hear his low chuckle, a sound that somehow managed to be both infuriating and disturbingly attractive. The gate agent scanned Emma's boarding pass with barely concealed annoyance. "You're cutting it close, Miss Rodriguez. Seat 1 for A." Emma hurried down the jet bridge, her mind racing. She'd just verbally eviscerated a complete stranger, and now she'd be trapped with him in a metal tube for 6 hours. Perfect. Absolutely perfect way to start her new life in New York. She found her window seat and collapsed into it, finally allowing herself to breathe. The flight was half empty, which meant there was a good chance Mr. Arrogant would be nowhere near her. Maybe he'd missed the plane. Maybe there was justice in the universe after all. 20 minutes later, as the plane taxied toward the runway, Emma allowed herself a small smile. She'd made it. Her bags were stowed, her seatbelt was fastened, and there was no sign of the infuriating stranger anywhere in economy. That's when the flight attendant appeared beside her seat.
"I miss her."
"Miss Rodriguez, we have a complimentary upgrade to business class for you. Would you mind coming with me?" Emma blinked. An upgrade. "But I didn't request anything, courtesy of Apex." "Innovation," the attendant said, with a practiced smile. "You are Emma Rodriguez from Apex Innovation, correct?" Emma nodded slowly. It was strange, but she wasn't about to question free champagne and legroom. She gathered her things and followed the attendant toward the front of the plane. Business class was a different world. Leather seats that looked like armchairs, actual space to breathe, and the soft murmur of important people doing important things. Emma settled into her assigned seat, 3C, and was just starting to feel like maybe this day was turning around when she heard a familiar voice. Champagne, Mr. Blackwood. Emma's blood turned to ice water. She turned slowly in her seat and felt her entire world tilt sideways. 2 rows ahead, raising a crystal glass with a smile that promised revenge, was the man from the airport. But now she could see his face clearly, and recognition hit her like a freight train. Nathan Blackwood, CEO of Apex Innovation, her new boss. The man she'd just called a pretentious piece of work was the owner of the company where she was supposed to start work on Monday. "Thank you," he said to the flight attendant, his eyes never leaving Emma's face. "And please ask my new colleague to join me. We have quite a lot to discuss." Emma closed her eyes and felt her career crumble before it had even begun. When she opened them, Nathan Blackwood was standing beside her seat, that same dangerous smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Miss Rodriguez," he said, extending his hand like nothing had happened. "Welcome to Apex Innovation. I do believe this is going to be a very interesting working relationship." Part 2. Turbulence. Emma's hand trembled as she shook Nathan's, his grip firm and warm, and completely at odds with the Arctic temperature of his smile. Up close, she could see flecks of silver in his blue eyes and catch the subtle scent of his cologne, something that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Mr. Blackwood," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper, "I had no idea you were my boss." He settled into the seat beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Yes, I gathered that from your colorful assessment of my character." The flight attendant appeared with another glass of champagne, setting it on Emma's tray table before discreetly disappearing. Emma stared at the golden liquid like it might contain answers, or possibly poison. "I owe you an apology," she said finally, forcing herself to meet his gaze. "What I said back there was completely unprofessional and accurate," Nathan interrupted, swirling his champagne. I mean, you were remarkably specific about my privileged upbringing. I'm curious where you got your information." Emma's cheeks burned. "I made assumptions. It's terrible, unfair assumptions based on my suit, my attitude. The fact that I can afford business class." His voice was conversational, but there was steel underneath. "Tell me, Miss Rodriguez, what exactly do you know about my background?" The plane hit turbulence, and Emma gripped her armrests as her stomach lurched. Or maybe that was just the conversation.
Nothing.
She admitted, "I know nothing about you." "I grew up in Queens," Nathan said quietly, his eyes never leaving her face. "My father fixed cars for 12 hours a day. My mother worked double shifts at Mercy General just to keep food on the table. I got into Columbia on a full academic scholarship and worked 3 jobs to pay for everything else."
Ow!
Emma felt like she was shrinking into her seat with every word. "I started Apex Innovation with $2,000 I saved delivering pizzas in a 15-year-old Honda that broke down twice a week." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "So, please, tell me more about Daddy's credit card." "I'm sorry." The words came out strangled. "I'm so sorry." "I had no right to." "You're absolutely right," Nathan said, sitting back. "You had no right, but you said it anyway. Which tells me everything I need to know about your character." Plane shuddered again, and this time, Emma was grateful for the distraction. She closed her eyes and tried to imagine herself anywhere else. Back in her tiny LA apartment, maybe, or possibly in witness protection. However, Nathan continued, and Emma's eyes snapped open. "I'm curious about something. You're starting as a junior analyst, correct? Fresh out of UCLA with a degree in economics and exactly 0 corporate experience?" Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. "Yet you had the confidence to verbally demolish a complete stranger in public. That takes either incredible stupidity or incredible courage." He studied her face like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "I'm hoping it's the latter." "It was stupidity," Emma said quickly. "Definitely stupidity. Interesting." Nathan flagged down the flight attendant. "Another champagne for the lady, please. Perhaps some of those chocolate-covered strawberries." "Mr. Blackwood, you don't have to. I don't have to do anything, Miss Rodriguez." I'm choosing to. There's a difference. He turned to face her fully. Let me ask you something. What made you think you could handle working at Apex Innovation? The question caught her off guard. I'm good with numbers. I'm analytical, hardworking, and I graduated summa cum laude. So did half the people I interview. What makes you different? Emma felt a flicker of her old confidence returning. I see patterns other people miss. I can look at data and find the story underneath it. And I'm not afraid to speak up when something doesn't make sense, even if everyone else is nodding along, even if it means insulting your boss. Especially then, Emma said before she could stop herself. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, and Emma was sure she'd just sealed her fate. But then he laughed, a rich sound that transformed his entire face. You know what, Miss Rodriguez? Think we're going to get along just fine? The plane hit another patch of turbulence, but this time Emma barely noticed. She was too busy staring at Nathan Blackwood, trying to reconcile the arrogant stranger from the airport with the man sitting beside her now. There were layers here she hadn't expected, depths that made her original assessment feel shallow and cruel. Can I ask you something? She said. Shoot. Why did you arrange for me to be upgraded? Was it just so you could torture me for 6 hours? Nathan's smile turned mysterious. Would you believe me if I said I was curious to see what you'd do when cornered? Is that what this is? Test? Everything's a test, Miss Rodriguez. The question is whether you pass or fail. He raised his glass. To new beginnings and better. First impressions. Emma picked up her champagne, her hand steadier now. To not judging books by their covers. Even when the cover is devastatingly handsome. Emma nearly choked on her drink. Did you just call yourself devastatingly handsome? I was quoting you, actually. Something about Netflix movie protagonist handsome, if I remember correctly. Emma's face went nuclear. You heard that? I have excellent hearing. Also, you weren't exactly whispering. Nathan's eyes crinkled with amusement. For what it's worth, I've been called worse. I seriously doubt that. Lies. Fiancé called me an emotionally unavailable workaholic with the social skills of a robot. Your insults were actually quite creative in comparison, ex-fiancé. The words slipped out before Emma could stop them. Nathan's expression shifted, becoming guarded. Long story. Not particularly interesting. But Emma caught the flash of pain in his eyes before he looked away, and she felt something shift between them. Some barrier lowering, some wall cracking, just enough to let light through. The plane began its descent. And Emma realized with something approaching panic that she didn't want this conversation to end. Not yet. There was something magnetic about Nathan Blackwood when he wasn't being a complete ass. Something that made her want to dig deeper, to understand the contradictions she was seeing. Mr. Blackwood, she said as they prepared for landing.
Nathan.
I think we're past formalities, don't you, Nathan? What happens on Monday? He was quiet for so long she thought he wasn't going to answer. Then he turned to her, his expression serious. Monday, Miss Rodriguez, you start the most challenging job of your life. As I decide whether I made a mistake hiring someone who thinks she knows everything about people she's never met. The plane touched down with a gentle bump. Emma felt her stomach drop for entirely different reasons. She had 3 days to figure out how to work for a man who unsettled her in ways she couldn't begin to understand. 3 days to prove she wasn't the judgmental brat she'd revealed herself to be in the airport. 3 days to convince herself that the fluttering in her chest, every time Nathan smiled, had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that he really was devastatingly handsome. As they gathered their belongings, Nathan leaned close enough that she could feel his breath against her ear. Welcome to New York, Emma Rodriguez. I hope you're ready for the ride. Monday morning arrived like a death sentence wrapped in designer packaging. Emma stood outside the gleaming glass tower that housed Apex Innovation, her reflection staring back at her from the chrome facade like a deer caught in headlights. Spent the weekend in her cramped Manhattan sublet, alternating between rehearsing apologies and stress-seating Ben & Jerry's while Googling. The internet had not been helpful. The lobby was all marble and intimidation, designed to make visitors feel small and employees feel grateful. Emma approached the reception desk where a woman with razor-sharp cheekbones and a smile that could power Times Square greeted her. "You must be Emma Rodriguez." "I'm Sarah, Mr. Blackwood's assistant." Sarah's enthusiasm felt genuine, but Emma caught something else in her tone. Pity, maybe, or morbid curiosity. "Mr. Blackwood asked me to bring you straight up when you arrived." Straight up. No orientation, no HR paperwork, no gentle introduction to corporate life. Straight to the lion's den. The elevator ride to the 45th floor felt like ascending to her execution. Sarah chatted about company benefits and office culture, but Emma's mind was elsewhere, replaying every terrible thing she'd said to Nathan in vivid, mortifying detail. "Right this way." Sarah chirped as the elevator doors opened onto a corridor lined with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. "Mr. Blackwood's office is just Sarah." The voice stopped Emma dead in her tracks. Deep, controlled, and unfortunately familiar, Nathan Blackwood stood in the doorway of a corner office roughly the size of Emma's entire apartment. He was wearing a different suit, charcoal gray this time, with a crisp white shirt that made his eyes look like storm clouds. "Miss Rodriguez," he said, his tone professionally neutral. "Right on time." Emma's mouth went dry. "Mr. Blackwood, please come in." He stepped aside, gesturing toward his office. "Sarah, hold my calls for the next hour." Sarah shot Emma a look that was equal parts sympathy and curiosity before disappearing down the hallway. Emma followed Nathan into his office, trying not to gawk at the stunning view of Manhattan spread out below them. The office was impeccably decorated, expensive art on the walls and awards that spoke to years of success. "Have a seat," Nathan said. Settling behind his massive desk, Emma perched on the edge of a leather chair that probably cost more than her. Carr clasping her hands in her lap to keep them from shaking. They stared at each other for a long moment, the silence stretching between them like a taut wire. "So," Nathan said finally, leaning back in his chair, "this is awkward. Despite everything?" Emma felt a small laugh escape her lips. "That's one way to put it. I have to say, Miss Rodriguez, in 15 years of running this company, I've never had a new employee call me a pretentious piece of work before even knowing who I was." Nathan picked up a pen and tapped it against his desk. "I'm curious. This exactly gave you the impression that I was born with a silver spoon?" Emma's cheeks burned. "I jumped to conclusions. I was stressed, running late, and I took it out on you. It was unprofessional and unfair." Nathan studied her with those impossibly blue eyes. "Tell me, what do you think your role will be?" "Here at Apex Innovation." Sudden shift in topic threw her off balance. "Junior analyst. Market research, data compilation, supporting the senior team with wrong." Nathan stood and walked to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. "Your official title might be junior analyst, but that's not why I hired you." Emma felt her heart hammering against her ribs.
Oh, I don't understand.
3 months ago, I received your resume along with 500 others. Same qualifications, same grades, same bland cover letter about wanting to make a difference in the corporate world. He turned to face her. "Do you know what made yours stand out?" Emma shook her head. "Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Your resume. When in the rejection pile, with all the others." Nathan moved closer, his eyes never leaving her face. "But then I met you at the airport. I don't you had the courage to tell me exactly what you thought of me, even when you believed I was nobody. Important. That's not stupidity, Miss Rodriguez. That's integrity. And integrity is exactly what this company needs right now." Emma stared at him, completely lost. "What are you talking about?" Nathan pressed a button on his desk, and the door opened. Appeared with a thick manila folder. 3 weeks ago, we discovered that someone in this company has been leaking confidential information to our biggest competitor. Market research, client lists, upcoming product launches. From Sarah, and dismissed her with a nod. "Someone is selling us out, and I need to find out who." Emma's blood ran cold. "You think I'm no? I think you're exactly what I need to catch them." Nathan opened the folder and spread several documents across his desk. "Welcome to your real job, Miss Rodriguez. You're going undercover." Emma stood so quickly her chair nearly toppled over. "Are you insane? I can't be a spy. I'm an economics major from UCLA. I cry during Pixar movies. I once got lost in a Trader Joe's for 45 minutes. Perfect cover, Nathan said with a slight smile. No one will suspect the bumbling new hire who can't find the bathroom without a map. This is crazy. I'm not qualified for this. I don't know anything about corporate espionage or how to read people, Nathan interrupted. You proved that at the airport. You saw right through what you thought was my facade. Now I need you to see through whoever is betraying this company. Emma sank back into her chair, her mind reeling. Why me? Why not hire actual professionals? Because professionals look like professionals. They ask too many questions, dig too deep too fast. But you, Nathan leaned against his desk, close enough that she could smell his cologne again. You're invisible. It's just another eager graduate. Trying to make her mark? You can go places, hear things, access information that no one else can. And if I get caught, then you get fired for being in places you shouldn't be. Worst case scenario? You're back to job hunting. Nathan's expression grew serious. But if we don't catch this person, Apex Innovation could be finished. 3,000 employees lose their jobs, including you. Emma stared down at the documents. Scattered across Nathan's desk, financial reports, client communications, product specifications. Someone she was going to work alongside, maybe even befriend, was systematically destroying everything Nathan had built. What exactly would I be looking for? Anything unusual? People staying late when they don't need to, accessing files outside. Their department being evasive about their work. Someone desperate enough to commit corporate espionage as someone with secrets. Emma picked up one of the reports, scanning the numbers. Even in her panic, she could see the patterns Nathan was talking about. Information that should have been confidential showing up in competitor analyses weeks before Apex's official announcements.
Oh.
Do you know it's not multiple people? A whole network? Because the leaked information is too specific, too targeted. It's personal. It's someone with high-level access who knows exactly which secrets will hurt us most. Nathan moved to stand behind. Her chair and Emma could feel the heat of his body against her back. Someone who wants to watch me fail. There was something in his voice, a note of betrayal that made Emma look up at him. You have an idea who it is? I have suspicions, but I need proof. Nathan met her eyes in the reflection of the window. Are you in? Emma thought about her student loans, her tiny apartment, her complete lack of other job prospects in New York. She thought about the 3,000 employees Nathan had mentioned. People with families and mortgages and dreams. She thought about the way Nathan had looked when he talked about his ex-fiancée, that flash of pain he'd tried to hide. If I do this, she said slowly, I want full disclosure. No more surprises, no more games. If I'm risking my career for you, I need to know exactly what I'm getting into. Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked back to his desk and pulled out a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses from a drawer. Deal, he said, pouring 2 fingers into each glass. But you're not going to like what you hear. Emma accepted the glass, her hand surprisingly steady. Try me. Nathan raised his whiskey in a toast. To the most dangerous job interview in corporate history. As Emma lifted her glass to meet his, she realized she'd just agreed to something that would either make her career or destroy her life. Possibly both. Asterisk. 3 weeks into her double life, Emma had learned several important things about corporate espionage. First, it was mostly boring. Second, everyone at Apex Innovation was hiding something, but most of it was just embarrassing personal stuff, like secret dating profiles or gambling debts. Third, Nathan Blackwood was a much better actor than she'd given him credit for. In public, he treated her with the cool professionalism of a boss who barely tolerated his newest employee. In private, usually in his office after hours, he became someone entirely different. Warmer, funnier, and disturbingly attractive when he rolled up his sleeves and loosened his tie while they went over her daily reports. Anything interesting? Today, Nathan asked as Emma slipped into his office at 7 p.m., long after most of the staff had gone home. Marcus Chen from accounting stayed until midnight again. But I think he's just trying to impress Jennifer from HR. David Walsh has been making a lot of personal calls, but they're all to his mother because she's having surgery next week. Emma collapsed into what had become her chair across from Nathan's desk. Oh, and Rebecca Morrison definitely has a drinking problem. Rebecca's been sober for 3 years, Nathan said without looking up from his computer. She keeps a flask of ginger ale in her desk because she's too embarrassed to admit she gets nauseous during stress meetings. Emma stared at him. How do you know that? So I'd pay attention to my employees. Unlike the corporate monster you seem to think I am. I don't think you're a monster. The words slipped out before Emma could stop them. Nathan's fingers stilled on his keyboard. No. What do you think I am? Emma felt heat creep up her neck. Over the past 3 weeks, she'd discovered that Nathan Blackwood was infuriatingly complicated. He remembered birthdays, approved time off for family emergencies, without question, and had personally paid for Sarah's daughter's medical bills when her insurance fell through. He was also ruthless in negotiations, demanding impossible standards, and had the unsettling ability to see right through people's facades, including hers. I think you're someone who cares more than he wants people to know, she said finally. Nathan saved his document and turned to face her fully. Careful, Miss Rodriguez. That almost sounded like a compliment. Don't let it go to your head. Their eyes met across the desk, and Emma felt that familiar flutter in her chest. It had been happening more frequently lately, especially during these late-night sessions when Nathan's professional mask slipped and she glimpsed the man underneath. Any luck with the financial records? She asked, desperate to break the tension. Nathan's expression darkened. Too much luck. I found the smoking gun. Emma sat up straighter. What do you mean? The money trail? $50,000 deposited into a private account over the past 6 months. Payment for services rendered to Hartwell Industries. Nathan pulled up a spreadsheet on his monitor and turned it toward her. Our leak has been very well compensated for their betrayal. Emma studied the numbers, her economist's brain automatically. Tracking the patterns. Deposits correspond exactly with the leaked information timeline. This is it. You can take this to the police. Not yet. Need to confirm the account holder's identity first. Nathan's jaw was tight with barely controlled anger. But I have a pretty good idea who it is. Who? Nathan was quiet for so long Emma thought he wasn't going to answer. Then he opened his desk drawer and pulled out a photograph, sliding it across the desk with shaking hands. The photo showed Nathan and a stunning blonde woman at what looked like a charity gala. They were both smiling, his arm around her waist, her hand resting possessively on his chest. She was wearing a ring that probably cost more than Emma's college education. Victoria Hartwell, Nathan said quietly. My ex-fiancée, the daughter of Robert Hartwell, CEO of Hartwell Industries. Emma's blood ran cold. Same Hartwell. Industries that's been receiving our leaked information. The very same. Okay. Emma stared at the photograph, pieces clicking into place. She had access to your files, your computer, your everything. Nathan took the photo back, his fingers tracing the edge. We lived together for 2 years. She knew. All my passwords, had keys to the office, attended board meetings as my guest. If anyone could systematically steal information without raising suspicion, it would be Victoria. But the bank account. How could she? She's still listed as an authorized user on several company accounts. I never removed her access after we broke up because I trusted her. Nathan's laugh was bitter. I actually trusted her. Emma felt a surge of anger so fierce it surprised her. What kind of person does that? Steals from someone they claim to love. It's the kind of person who never loved me in the first place. Nathan put the photograph away, but not before Emma caught the pain that flashed across his face. It's the kind of person who saw a lonely workaholic with more money than sense and decided to cash in. Nathan, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize for her choices. Nathan stood and walked to the window, his reflection ghost-like in the dark glass. I should have seen it coming. The way she always pushed me to share more about work, her sudden interest in company strategy. The fights we had about my secrecy when I wouldn't discuss confidential deals. Emma joined him at the window, close enough to see the tension in his shoulders. You couldn't have known. People we love are supposed to be trustworthy, are they? Nathan turned to face her, his eyes searching her face. How do we ever really know someone? How do we know their motives are genuine and not just elaborate performance? The question hung between them, loaded with subtext. Emma wasn't sure she was ready to unpack, because the truth was, she'd been wondering the same thing about herself. What had started as a job, an act of survival, had become something else entirely. Somewhere between analyzing spreadsheets and sharing late-night takeout in Nathan's office. She'd stopped pretending to care about him and started actually caring. "We don't," she said softly. "We just have to decide if the risk is worth it." Nathan moved closer, close enough that Emma could see the flecks of gold in his blue eyes. "And what if the risk is everything? What if trusting someone could destroy everything you've worked for?" Emma's heart was hammering so hard she was sure he could hear it. "Then you have to decide if everything you've worked for is worth anything, without someone to share it with." For a moment, she thought Nathan was going to kiss her. He leaned closer, his hand coming up to cup her cheek, his thumb brushing across her lower lip. Emma's eyes fluttered closed, her body swaying toward him. Then his phone rang. Nathan jerked back like he'd been burned, the spell broken. He grabbed his phone, his professional mask sliding back into place. "Blackwood." His voice was clipped, businesslike. "What? When?" "No, don't call the police yet. I'll be right there." He hung up and grabbed his jacket. "Someone broke into the office tonight. They tried to access the server room." Emma felt ice water in her veins. "Victoria? Maybe whoever she's working with realized we're getting close." Nathan paused at the door, his eyes meeting hers. "Emma, I need you to go home. Lock your doors. Don't answer them for anyone you don't know. If I'm right about this, things are about to get very dangerous. I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. This isn't a game anymore. These people have already proven they're willing to commit crimes. I won't put you at risk." Emma grabbed her purse, her jaw set with determination. "Too late. I'm already at risk. We're partners in this, remember? Said you needed someone you could trust." Nathan stared at her for a long moment, something unreadable flickering across his face. Then he nodded grimly. "Partners," he agreed. "But if this goes sideways, you run. No heroics, no trying to save me. You run, and you call the police."
Ah!
As they headed for the elevator, Emma realized they were about to walk into a confrontation that would either expose the truth or destroy them both. But she also realized something else. For the first time in her life, she was willing to risk everything for someone else. The question was whether Nathan would do the same for her. The Apex Innovation building at midnight felt like a mausoleum, all shadows and empty corridors that echoed with their footsteps. Nathan used his keycard to access the 45th floor, his jaw tight with tension as they stepped off the elevator.
All day?
"Behind me," he murmured, reaching into his jacket to pull out something Emma hadn't expected to see. "A gun? You carry a gun to work?" She whispered. "I carry a gun everywhere since I started getting death threats 6 months ago," Nathan replied grimly. "Courtesy of some business deals that didn't go Hartwell Industries' way." They moved down the corridor like ghosts, past Sarah's empty desk, and toward Nathan's office. But as they rounded the corner, Emma grabbed his arm. "Look." She pointed toward the server room at the end of the hall, where a thin line of light leaked from under the door. "Someone's still here." Nathan nodded and gestured for Emma to stay back. But as he approached the server room, the door suddenly swung open, and Emma's world tilted sideways. It wasn't Victoria Hartwell standing in the doorway. It was Sarah. Nathan's assistant stood there with a laptop, bag slung over her shoulder, and a USB drive in her hand, her usually perfect hair disheveled, and her eyes wide with panic. When she saw Nathan, her face crumpled. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Nathan's gun never wavered, but Emma could see the shock and hurt in his eyes. "Sarah, how long?" 8 months. Sarah's voice was barely audible. "Ever since my daughter's surgery. The insurance didn't cover everything, and Victoria approached me. She said it would just be small things, harmless information that wouldn't hurt anyone." Emma felt sick. Nathan had paid for Sarah's daughter's medical bills, and all the while Sarah had been selling his secrets to his ex-fiancée. $50,000, Nathan said, his voice deadly quiet. Was that the price of 8 years of loyalty? Sarah flinched like he'd slapped her. "My daughter needed that surgery. Meh has leukemia, and the experimental treatment wasn't covered. I couldn't let her die because I was too proud, so you decided to kill my company instead.
What?
Nathan's hand was shaking now, whether from rage or heartbreak. Emma couldn't tell. 3,000 employees, Sarah. 3,000 families whose livelihoods depend on Apex innovation. I never meant for it to go this far. Tears were streaming down Sarah's face. Victoria said she just wanted to stay competitive, that it wouldn't really hurt you. But then the demands kept escalating, and she started threatening to expose me if I didn't give her more. Emma stepped forward, ignoring Nathan's warning look. Where is she now? Victoria? Sarah's eyes darted between them. She's waiting in the parking garage. She was supposed to meet me here to get the final server back up, but when the security alarm went off, she made me come alone. The final backup? Nathan's face went white. Sarah, what did you give her? Everything. Sarah's voice broke. Client list, financial records, the new product designs for next year. She said this would be the last time, that after tonight, I'd be free. Emma watched Nathan absorb this information, saw the moment he realized what it meant. Victoria now had everything she needed to destroy Apex innovation completely. She could sell their upcoming product designs to competitors, poach their biggest clients, or simply release their financial information publicly and tank their stock price. You stupid, selfish woman, Nathan said, his voice raw with betrayal. She was never going to let you go. You were her golden goose, and she would have bled you dry until there was nothing left of this company. I know. Sarah dropped the USB drive and it clattered across the floor. I know, and I hate myself for it. But I couldn't let my daughter die, Nathan. I couldn't. Emma watched Nathan's face cycle through rage, hurt, and something that looked like understanding. The gun in his hand lowered slightly. Where in the parking garage? He asked finally. Level B2, near the exit. She's driving a black Tesla. Sarah wiped her eyes. Nathan, I know you have every right to call the police, but please, please think about my daughter. She's only 8 years old. Nathan holstered his gun and pulled out his phone. I'm calling security to escort you out. You're fired, obviously, and I'll be pressing charges. But I'll make sure your daughter gets the medical care she needs through a different fund. One that doesn't require you to destroy innocent people's lives. Sarah nodded, sobbing with relief. Thank you. I don't deserve your kindness, but thank you. As Nathan called security, Emma found herself staring at the USB drive Sarah had dropped. It was such a small thing to contain so much destruction. She picked it up, turning it over in her hands. What are you thinking? Nathan asked after he'd hung up. I'm thinking Victoria's about to get a very unpleasant surprise. Emma pocketed the drive. How good is your company's cybersecurity team? Nathan's eyes narrowed. The best money can buy. Why? Because I have an idea? But we need to move fast, and you're going to have to trust me completely. 20 minutes later, they were crouched behind a concrete pillar in the parking garage. Watching Victoria Hartwell pace beside her Tesla while talking angrily into her phone. Even from a distance, Emma could see. She was beautiful in that effortless way that came from excellent genes and expensive maintenance. She's been waiting. For almost an hour, Emma whispered. She's getting suspicious. Good. Suspicious people make mistakes. Nathan checked his watch. Are you sure this will work? Your cybersecurity team confirmed they've uploaded the modified files to the USB drive. If Victoria tries to access them, it'll trigger a program that traces her location and copies everything on her computer back to your servers. Emma felt a grim satisfaction. She thinks she's stealing your secrets, but she's actually giving you evidence of everything she's stolen. And if she realizes it's a trap, then we run very fast and hope your security team gets here quickly. Nathan reached over and squeezed Emma's hand. For what it's worth, this is either brilliant or completely insane. Victoria's phone conversation ended abruptly, and she stalked toward the building entrance. Emma and Nathan moved deeper into the shadows, watching as Victoria used a key card to access the elevator. She still has building access. Emma hissed. I never revoked it. I thought I could trust her. Nathan's voice was bitter. Apparently, I have terrible judgment when it comes to the people I care about. Emma felt those words like a physical blow, because she realized that Nathan wasn't just talking about Victoria and Sarah. He was talking about her too, about the risk he was taking by trusting someone who had started as an undercover spy in his own company. "Nathan," she began, but he held up a hand. "She's coming back." Victoria emerged from the building 15 minutes later, the laptop bag slung over her shoulder and a satisfied smile on her face. She climbed into her Tesla and immediately connected the USB drive to her laptop. Emma and Nathan waited, barely breathing, as Victoria's fingers flew over her keyboard. Then Victoria's expression changed from satisfaction to confusion to panic. "It's working," Emma whispered. "She's realized something's wrong, but it's too late. The program is already running." Victoria frantically tried to disconnect the drive, but Nathan's cybersecurity team had designed the program well. Once activated, it couldn't be stopped. Nathan's phone buzzed with a text message. "We got it all. Every file she stole, every email, every financial transaction. She's finished." Victoria threw her laptop across the car in frustration, then started the engine. But as she pulled toward the exit, police cars surrounded her Tesla, their red and blue lights painting the concrete walls like a disco from hell. "How did they get here so fast?" Emma asked. "I called them 20 minutes ago and told them exactly where to find a corporate spy with stolen data." Nathan stood, his expression grim but satisfied. "It's over." They watched as Victoria was arrested, her furious protests echoing through the parking garage. When she spotted Nathan watching from the shadows, her face twisted with rage. "He's self-righteous." "Bastard!" she screamed. "You think you're so much better than everyone else, but you're just as dirty as the rest of us. Ask your precious new employee how she really got her job." Emma's blood turned to ice. Nathan turned to look at her, confusion. In his eyes, what is she talking about? He asked quietly. Emma closed her eyes, knowing the moment of truth had finally arrived. "Nathan, I need to tell you something. About why I really took this job." But Nathan was already stepping away from her, the pieces clicking into place. In his brilliant mind, "You weren't just a random hire, were you? Someone recommended you for this position?" "Yes." Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "Who?" Emma met his eyes, knowing this would probably destroy everything between them. "Victoria. She recommended me 3 months ago. She said she had a friend who would be perfect for your junior analyst position." The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Nathan's face went through the same cycle of emotions Emma had seen when he discovered Sarah's betrayal. Shock, hurt, rage, and finally, a cold professionalism that was somehow worse than anger. "So this was all planned," he said finally. "Victoria plants you in my company. I conveniently develop feelings for you, and then you report back to her about my every move." "No." Emma stepped toward him, but he backed away. "Nathana wasn't like that. I had no idea Victoria was your ex-fiancée. When I took the job, I thought she was just someone who knew about the opening. When did you figure it out?" Emma swallowed hard. "The day you showed me her photograph, 3 weeks ago." Nathan's voice was flat. "You've known for 3 weeks that the woman who recommended you was the same woman we were investigating, and you said nothing." "I was scared. I thought you'd fire me, or worse, think I was part of her plan, weren't you?" The question hit Emma like a physical blow. "How can you ask me that? After everything we've been through, after what we just accomplished together, how can you think I would betray you?" "Because everyone betrays me eventually," Nathan said, his voice raw with pain. "Sarah, Victoria, and now you. The 3 people I trusted most in the world, and all 3 of you lied to me. I never lied to you. I just didn't tell you everything." "That's the same thing, Emma. That's exactly the same thing." Emma felt tears pricking her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "So what happens now? You fire me and pretend none of this ever happened?" Nathan was quiet for so long Emma thought he wasn't going to answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. "I don't know. I need time to think, to process all of this. Victoria's arrest, Sarah's betrayal, your connection to both of them." He looked at her one last time, and Emma saw her own heart breaking reflected in his eyes. "I need you to stay away from me for a while. Can you do that?" Emma nodded. Not trusting her voice. "Good. Sarah will clean out her desk tomorrow, and I'll have HR handle your transition to a different department. You're a good analyst, Emma. You deserve a chance to build a career that isn't built on deception. He turned and walked toward the elevator, leaving Emma alone in the parking garage with the flashing police lights and the wreckage of everything she'd started to hope for. 3 days later, Emma sat in her new cubicle on the 32nd floor, staring at spreadsheets and trying to pretend her heart wasn't completely shattered. She'd been transferred to the market research department, where she spent her days analyzing consumer trends and trying not to think about late nights in Nathan's office. She'd saved his company and lost him in the process. It felt like the cruelest possible outcome. On Friday afternoon, Sarah knocked on the wall of her cubicle. She looked older, more fragile, but there was peace in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "I wanted to thank you," Sarah said quietly, "for what you and Nathan did. My daughter's treatment is going well, and Nathan set up a fund that will cover all her medical expenses until she's 18. "He's a good man," Emma said, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. "He is, and he's miserable without you." Emma looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean, he's been asking about you constantly. What department you're in, how you're adjusting, whether you're happy." Sarah sat on the edge of Emma's desk. "He won't admit it, but he misses you terribly. He doesn't trust me. He thinks I'm just another person who betrayed him." "No, he doesn't." Scared Emma, scared of caring about someone who might leave him like everyone else has. Sarah smiled sadly. "But being scared isn't the same as not caring." That night, Emma stood outside Nathan's office building, staring up at the lights on the 45th floor. She'd been standing there for an hour, trying to work up the courage to go inside. Finally, she made her decision. The elevator ride to Nathan's floor felt like a lifetime. When the doors opened, she could see light coming from his office. Was there, just like she'd hoped. Emma walked down the corridor, her heels clicking against the marble floor. When she reached his office, she knocked softly on the doorframe. Nathan looked up from his computer, and the surprise on his face quickly gave way to wariness. "Emma, what are you doing here?" "I came to tell you the truth. All of it, this time." Nathan gestured to the chair across from his desk, the same chair where they'd spent so many evenings planning Victoria's downfall. Emma sat down and took a deep breath. "Victoria contacted me 4 months ago through a headhunter. She said she'd heard good things about my work and thought I'd be perfect for a position at Apex Innovation. I had no idea who she was, Nathan. I thought she was just being helpful." Nathan listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. "When you showed me her photograph, I panicked. I realized I'd been set up, that she'd probably planned to use me somehow. But by then, Emma swallowed hard. By then, I was already falling in love with you." Nathan's eyes widened slightly, but he didn't speak. "I know you think I betrayed you, but I need you to understand something. Every late night we spent together, every conversation, every moment when I thought you might kiss me, all of that was real. My feelings for you are real. And I would never, ever do anything to hurt you." Emma stood up, her legs unsteady. "I know you can't trust me right now. I know I should have told you about Victoria the moment I realized who she was. But I was terrified of losing you before I'd even had a chance to see what we could be together." She walked toward the door, then turned back one last time. "For what it's worth, Nathan, you're the best man I've ever known. You're brilliant and kind and completely worth the risk of loving. I just hope someday you'll believe that about yourself." Emma was almost to the elevator when she heard footsteps behind her. "Emma, wait." She turned to find Nathan standing in the corridor, his hair disheveled and his tie loosened. He looked like he'd been running. "I've been thinking about what you said," he began, walking slowly toward her, "about deciding if the risk is worth it." Emma's heart was hammering so hard she could barely breathe. And I realized something. Everyone I've ever trusted has hurt me because I chose to trust people who weren't worthy of it. But you, Nathan, stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the vulnerability in his eyes. You had every opportunity to betray me, and instead, you saved my company. You saved me. "Nathan, I love you too," he said quietly. "I've been falling in love with you since that first night on the plane when you had the courage to challenge me. I'm tired of being afraid of that. Emma felt tears sliding down her cheeks. Are you sure? Because I can't handle it if you change your mind again, I'm sure. Nathan cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away her tears. I'm sure because loving you is the first risk I've ever taken that feels worth everything I could lose. When Nathan kissed her, Emma felt like she was finally coming home. It was soft and desperate and full of all the words they'd been too afraid to say. When they broke apart, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. So what happens now? Emma asked. Now you come back to work for me. As my partner, in every sense of the word. Nathan smiled, and it transformed his entire face. That is, if you can handle being in love with your boss, I think I can manage, Emma said, pulling him down for another kiss. After all, I've gotten pretty good at handling difficult men. Difficult? Nathan raised an eyebrow. I prefer devastatingly handsome. Emma laughed, the sound echoing through the empty corridor. Don't push it, Blackwood. 6 months later, Emma stood in front of the bathroom mirror in Nathan's penthouse apartment. Staring at the engagement ring on her finger, it was beautiful, but not ostentatious, exactly like the man who'd given it to her. Having second thoughts? Nathan appeared in the doorway, adjusting his cufflinks. Never, Emma said, turning to face him. Though I have to admit I never thought I'd be marrying someone I met by insulting them at an airport. Best meet cute in corporate history, Nathan said, pulling her into his arms, though I still think you owe me an apology for that pretentious piece of work comment. I'll apologize when you admit you were being a pretentious piece of work. Nathan laughed and spun her around. Deal. I was a pretentious piece of work, and you were exactly what I needed. As Emma looked into the eyes of the man she was going to marry, she realized that sometimes the biggest risks led to the greatest rewards. Sometimes the person who challenged you most was exactly the person you needed. And sometimes love really was worth risking everything. The end.